Welcome to another episode of the Financial Pro Podcast, and today we've got an interview with a man who I've bugged, pestered, probably annoyed at points, mostly I would say over the last sort of 18 months for various different reasons over my journey of looking at sales and marketing. Mr. Martin Lightbowne of On Point Financial. How you doing, my friend?
I am excellent, thanks. Gary, yourself?
Yeah, can't grumble for a Wednesday morning that we're recording this on. No, it's Tuesday morning, isn't it?
Always a good start of the week.
Yeah, exactly. Weeks just fly, days just fly into weeks. I said that to my team this morning. It's just mental. The time's just disappearing.
Oh, it's nuts.
Well,
Facebook, I don't know if you saw it, that literally April was about 300 days long, and then you sneezed and we're almost in October.
Yeah. And my wife said to me yesterday, it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to go start sorting out some Christmas shopping. I'm like, what? Yep. Is this time already?
Well, it starts earlier and earlier, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think there's that whole fear at the moment, at the time of recording this, obviously the lockdown and everything else coming on. It's like, are we going to be able to get anything again? So it's...
Well, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we won't delve too much into that today, but to give people context why I wanted to get Martin onto the podcast. Obviously, he's known quite and see his face quite regularly in the Protection Pro group and in the Mortgage Pro group that I have. But Martin and I spoke probably about 18 months ago now, I would say.
Yep.
Maybe. Where I was going through my own deliberations within my own business of, do I not recruit? Do I just do sales and marketing and lead generate? And I even spoke to Martin about referring all my leads into his business and his team and management, taking them on. And for one reason or another, I ended up, sort of building my own as well alongside. But Martin's had fantastic growth over the last 6 months that I think will be inspiring to the industry. It's inspiring to see the journey that you're going on, and hopefully you can tell us a little bit about why, how, and what the vision is for today, can you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so before anyone kind of before we get into it, I always like to kind of go back to not the first job that you had, although you're more than welcome to share it, but what were you doing pre-financial services?
Well, it depends how far you want to go back. So I've got a master's in mechanical engineering, got into Colgate and Shell for a while, and then realized that I just was not corporate material because, as people know me, I don't have a filter, and in corporate world you do. And the big thing was I always treated it like it was my money, and managers didn't like that, particularly managers who were several levels above you where you were challenging them. And decided to set up on my own, so I got involved doing sales and marketing online. So I worked for a company in the States teaching people how to generate leads online in 2003, mentoring them, helping them succeed, and making good money selling it ourselves. And then launched the Home Business Success Academy in 2007, which was all designed about small and micro businesses, teaching them how to generate leads. And then sold that back in 2013 to my business partner. And then got involved in financial services the start of March 2014. And then was in with a company there looking at it and going, well, this is actually really cool if you position it properly and you generate portfolios of protection properly, which they weren't very keen on. They were very much, this is the way you do it. You do whole of life with a bit of critical illness, which just didn't make sense for me. So set up On Point Financial, where we basically specialize in giving really good financial services advice when it comes to protection. Yeah. So we're very heavy on income protection. We're very heavy on family income benefit. And we do proper portfolios of protection. And then it's just grown from there. So we've had growth first. We've grown and then gone back, grown and then gone back, grown and then gone back. And then that's all prepped it for the growth curve we're on right now, which we took advantage of COVID to basically expand massively.
Yeah, and I think it is massively like that. Looking back on my business journey, being self-employed in 2006, credit crunch, back to a one-man band, then up to a team of 13, had a poor business partner, bought him out, back to a team of 3, then grow again. And it's just like, there is the roller coaster, and it's only through that actual trial and error. And I think this is where people are scared to make mistakes in some respects.
Yep.
It's the trial and error that actually helps you to understand stronger foundations to then formulate what is effectively a scalable model. Would you agree?
100%. So if you speak to like Lorraine or Stephen or any of our team, I drive them crazy with it. And I'm a big believer that you don't succeed your way to success, you fail your way to success. And the fact that you fail, the more you succeed, as long as you're not repeating the same mistake again. And you're learning from it and looking to say, well, what do we do wrong there? How do we get better? I remember I had a really good mentor early on in my days when I was back at Shell. And at the time, they kept reinventing the model. And I was in a town hall for high potential people. And someone said, we just seem to be going round and round and round in circles. And he's like, that's because you're looking at it from above. He's like, but if you actually look at it from the side, it's like a ramp on a car park where you go round a spiral and you go down. He's like, if you look there, you'll see that while we're going round and round, every time we're getting higher and higher. But you have to keep reinventing the circle with new learnings to get there. And I think that's the key thing with every business is, yeah, you look like you're just going round and round in circles, but if you actually look at the side, you should be elevating your position. Yeah. If you're not, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, without a doubt. I like the whole kind of almost like the staircase or the the computer game analogy. You go through a level, you plateau for a bit, and then you hit the big boss at the end, and then you beat the big boss and you go up, and then you have another little plateau, and it's slowly but surely you get the growth over time, don't you?
Exactly. Play age trying to get past that boss on Sonic as a kid, and then before you know it, you're 5 levels on.
Yeah. So what made you, when you joined the industry 5 years, or you said 6 years ago, didn't you, when we started recording this? So what made you want to get into financial services in the first place? Because now you're in, you're never getting out. You know that, don't you? That's it.
Well, a few things. So first of all, is with the training businesses, what happened is if you look at the prices, you can only increase them every so often because you have mental barriers to prices. So for example, if we were selling a course at $2,000, we had to wait for it to get to the point where 2,000 was really 2,500. So what happened is every year you had this pay drop that came down, and then you got a pay rise, and then you had another pay drop. And I wanted something where it was automatically inflation linked because it got rid of that problem. And then the other side of it was I wanted something where, if you look at financial services back to 2012, there was 125,000 advisors in the market, and about 46% of people used a broker. Whereas now when you look at it, there's 21,000, 22,000 brokers in the market, and 89% of people want to use a broker. So if you look at it as you've got this increasing supply, but increasing demand, but decreasing supply. Then if you also look at the industries, the average age is about 57, 58 at the minute. I heard rumors last week it could even be as high as 59. So you've got the vast majority of those people retiring. And then when you look at the industry as a whole, is without offending people, it's pretty out of date. So if you look at things like lead gen, most of the people I know, I remember going to the first Primus meetings and people standing up on stage going, I can proudly say I've never paid for a lead. I've never run any advertising in my life. And I was sat in the back going, are you frigging kidding me? The success that you've got without doing that. Imagine how much you've left on the table because you don't know how to do that. So when you look at the technology side, when you look at the lead gen side, and you pull that together, you've basically got an industry that's stuck in the dark ages, slowly moving forward. You've got businesses out there that are trying things, and then you hear about them, they come on and they're the new breakthrough model, and then 10 days later they're out of business because they're broke and they've wasted all their money. And then you've got things like, we've heard about robo-advisors where if you're in a network, they say, well, you can't really do a robo-advisor type setup. A lot of DAs are not even doing robo-advisor setups, and then you've got people being pushed as a robo-advisor setup, and then you're finding out that actually it's just a bit of technology up front that captures the details and then pushes it back, and then it's an advisor on the back end.
Yeah.
So for me, it was just it's an industry that's ripe for technology. It's an industry that there's a lot of opportunities in, and it's a growth industry. And let's be honest, there's frigging good money in it.
Yeah, that's the bottom line, isn't it? It pays quite nicely.
Yep.
And it's what's more satisfying than helping somebody make the biggest financial decision in their life. And from a protection side of things, making sure that should the worst happen to them, they can keep the house. They're not left with the debt. You know, the kids can still maintain a standard of living, all of that kind of jazz. It's so rewarding to be involved in that.
Exactly.
Yeah. So when you you came into it from that side of things, and I think I'm totally with you. You and I share exactly the same ethoses around the lead generation side. And I learned a lot of mine sort of post 2016, having not done any marketing for 10 years. And I think, it's slowly learning and educating. But what are some of the big things that you've seen, in your 5 years since being in the industry, do you think?
I think there's been massive cultural changes. So I remember going to one of my first networking events with Primus and not wearing a tie. And I was the only one not in the room. So much so that I got called out on stage for the results that we'd seen, and literally got said, if you want to know who that guy is, it's the one guy who thinks he's that good, he doesn't have to wear a tie. Then second time event out again, I was the only one not wearing a tie. And then after that, I mean, if you look at it now, you go to events with financial advisors and half the room don't wear ties. Mm-hmm. And I think that's actually showing a massive cultural changes as a sweep of younger people coming in. That and realizing that clients don't care what you wear as they care what you know about.
Yeah.
And then the other big change I've seen is there's a lot more people wanting to get online. And I think the other thing is there's a lot more cowboys out there in terms of not necessarily financial services, but people trying to sell the shovels to financial services. So if people aren't aware, there's a big saying that if you look at the people who actually made money in the gold rush in California, it wasn't the people mining for gold, it was the people who sold them the shovels. And there's lots of people out there where I speak to them and I always say to them, well, how did you learn this? And I always test them. And I never tell them I know what the hell I'm doing, because I'm always keen to try and outsource where we can. And sometimes you catch people out and they've been doing it for 30 days and they want to charge you £3,000 a month to do your lead gen.
Yeah.
On your penny, or they want to pay do this PPL model that there's a famous person teaching people go out and just test on your client's money, but don't tell them your experience. And you're like, so they're telling you, well, I'll pay you generate leads fee for £35 a lead. You pay them up front, and then they've never generated a lead in their life, and they're using your money to learn, and then going, oh, well, I didn't quite get that right, but I'll get it right the next time for you and make it up for you. And I'm like, no.
It's just not happening.
So I think there's a lot more on that side of things, which is a lot harder than it was a few years ago. Because if you think back, even just when we started, there was only a couple of companies generating leads, and the quality was reasonable.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at our first year when I was with the company I was with On Point, is I think I did 150,000 in sales, and it was all from paid lead gen.
Yeah.
Where now they've basically got it so that the only people who make money are the lead gen companies.
Yeah.
So you look at it, I mean, we generate our appointments for an average about £2 an appointment, £3 an appointment. And yet when you look at the industry, people are charging 25 to 50 quid a lead for that, per lead for that. And you think, well, that's all the profit margin gone out of it.
Yeah.
So I think it's getting more competitive from that respect. I also think you've probably seen this yourself, is there's a big difference with people's branding. So I think when I came in the industry 5 years ago, no one really gave a damn about branding beyond what their logo looks like and what the shop looked like. And the website could be a pile of crap and no one cared. Whereas now, if you look, there's a lot more companies coming out there. I mean, yours looks great, ours looks great. You've got companies out there like Southwest Mortgages look great. There's some really, really strong ones if you look at them out there where you've got like Pure Protection and Pure Mortgages. Theirs looks absolutely the dog's Watsits. Keep it clean, right? And you've got companies now that are actually investing in looking like professional brokerages.
Yeah.
That's a big change, I think. And then you've also got Google My Business, which is just becoming huge.
Yeah, Google My Business is definitely picking up, and you know, you and I have got advisors based all over the country now, so it's like you can almost give yourself multiple around the UK and benefit from loads of that.
Exactly.
So you mentioned there about getting appointments for a couple of quid. It'll be rude of me not to ask. You don't obviously have to go into the mechanics of detail, but you share. We need to tell the audience how you're doing that. You know, I talk a lot about my lead magnet method. Currently got one that's working at 64p for a name and an email address and a phone number.
Yep.
And then on the back of that, actually sending them a physical book, which they pay the postage for, and then gets called by the team, an appointment booked and job done. So we're similar. What's kind of your main method for being able to do that? So
it depends on the product. And it depends upon the specific areas. So there's some products where we use like lead magnets, because if you're competing in an area where it's going to cost you 15, 20 quid a lead, you suddenly hit a lead magnet and retarget the damn thing out on the back end. You drop the cost to the floor, because there's a difference between going, hey, buy my shit, and here's actually a free product for you, and then selling off the back of that. The other side of it is what we also have is we've got where we just offer free advice, or we offer free challenges. We try and make it a bit sexy. So there's things, for example, like we do the Take the Mortgage Challenge, where we guarantee you that if we can't get you a better rate, if you're in the last 3 months of your mortgage, we'll give you a bottle of wine for wasting your time. And it's really catchy, because then you can say, so either you're going to save money or you're going to get free booze. And who doesn't like that? And then on the other side of it is we link it all up. So what happens is people go through, they leave the details on Facebook. We do a little bit of YouTube now and a little bit of Google. And even a lot through referral marketing, through introducers locally. And then when they put in the details in the form, it automatically takes them straight through to our calendar, so they can book into the advisors' calendars. And depending on the type of appointment, it automatically selects which advisors and when they're available, so that we don't even bother with that now. So then it automatically sends out a reminder to them, follows up with email if they don't do that, and all that sort of stuff. So it just takes all the hassle out. So it means our guys, when they come in, can come in and already have 2, 3, in some cases 10 appointments a day. Yeah. Before even hitting the street. Yeah, nice. And are you using Calendly to do that? No, we use Acuity, because it's one cost for unlimited advisors.
Acuity. Never heard of that one. Acuity.
Whereas if you look at Calendly and that, they're about $8 per advisor. We pay $35, $40 a month for unlimited.
Right. Okay.
Which, given we're now up to what 18 advisors, is a massive saving.
Yeah, and it interlinks and it integrates with Outlook and Google, whatever people use, I would assume.
So it also creates via Zapier as well with most things.
Okay, so yeah, Jack will find a link for the show notes and we'll stick that Acuity into the show notes when we find it for you to make it nice and easy for people to click.
Makes it piece of cake. And we find about 55 to 60% of people will book an appointment.
Yeah.
What we did is we just put in a really heavy takeaway in the thank you page that basically says, because demand is so high for these products, we will not phone you unless you book an appointment, unless we end up with a cancellation. So if you want to speak to us, book your appointment. So it's actually funny. I don't know if you can see the bottom of the notifications that keep popping up on the bottom of my screen, but it's just appointments that are getting booked. So while we've been on here, we've already had 5 appointments booked for the team in the last, 15, 20 minutes?
Yeah. Nice.
It's
very
good.
Nice. And how much do you have as an average across all of your marketing spend? You know, you've got a team of 18, so it's a relative calculation. What would you say you spend a month on marketing?
We spend about £85 a day.
£83, £85 a day. So yeah, so you can break that down roughly to work out
what 2,800 a month right now.
Yeah.
From that, this month we've written £3,000 in monthly protection premiums and done a few million on mortgages.
Yeah. Which, if you break that down, if you're spending a couple of grand a month on that, you're roughly looking at £100 per advisor on advertising per month, aren't you? Realistically, for argument's sake, keep it simple for people. And that's the beauty of things like Facebook, is it doesn't have to cost you the earth. You just have to know what you're doing and how to do it, I think, is probably one of the most important things.
Exactly. And not listen to all the idiots out there. Loads of people out there telling you, you've got to do this, you've got to do that, you've got to do that. And I started testing that because I hadn't really done a lot of online marketing since 2012, and tried what they were saying, like go out there and just blast out 8,000 images and see which ones grab the traffic. And it was just absolute nonsense. So what I did was actually go back to the way that we used to do it in 2012, and that really just works.
Yeah.
The only thing is that obviously while targeting, you still keep it broad enough to let the Facebook algorithm do a lot of the heavy lifting for you.
Yeah. And
the other thing I would say to people is don't panic. So we've had campaigns that start off and go really hard against us, and it's almost like Facebook is testing you.
Yeah.
You have to give it 7 days and don't panic. So we had one where it started off and the leads were about £50 a lead. And I was sat there going, Christ almighty, are you kidding me? This campaign should fly. And then after day 7, it suddenly dropped to £2 a lead.
Yeah.
Just like overnight. And it's just as the algorithm just tuned itself in, and then
it goes every time you launch an ad, it goes through the learning phase. And then if you make any subsequent changes to the ad sets, to the audience types and all that, then it goes through the learning phase again. And that's why, I've still got an ad running now, which is probably since about March, and it's just generating leads at under £2. So it's just like, just leave it. Don't touch it. If it isn't broke, don't fix it.
Yep.
And it works a treat. So you mentioned there as well, going from, you're now up to 18 advisors.
Correct.
Pre-COVID, kind of, let's say February of this year or beginning of 2020, what were you at then?
Well, we just come through the end of another learning cycle, as I call it. So we got down to literally just me, Stephen, and Lorraine. So Lorraine at the time, so it was me and Stephen just as the 2 advisors. Yeah. And then I'm a big believer. I heard a great quote. So I always follow Zig Ziglar, and he always said that in a recession or in a downturn, roughly 10 to 20% of the market disappears, but half your competitors go out of business. So you should at least double your business. And we were lucky is we were quite insightful going forward. So basically from February, we were saying, assume there's no mortgages from May for the rest of the year, what would we do? And we planned according to that. So when it actually happened, that was going to be the scenario. For a couple of months, we just kicked that into plan. And it just went from strength to strength from there. So we've got 18 right now. We've got another 12 in the pipeline that are just going through approval with Primus. Yeah, so it should be somewhere between 25 and 30 by Christmas.
And what's your split in terms of protection and mortgage?
If you'd have asked me at the start of this week, it would have been 3 mortgage to 10 protection. Yeah. Right now, because we've got quite a few mortgage advisors coming through, I think right now we're sitting at 5 mortgage and 13 protection. And then we've got another 3 or 4 mortgage advisors that will get approved by the end of this month.
Yeah.
So, but all our mortgage advisors are all mortgage and protection.
Yeah. And do you think mortgage advisors can do a decent job on protection, particularly in the current climate where criteria is changing every 48 hours so relentlessly. Do you think
Truthfully, yes, if they put the time and effort in. Most I don't think do.
Yeah.
And the reason is, if you look at it, I mean, if you've got a panel similar to our size, you've got 94 lenders, 500 odd mortgage products you're trying to keep up with. And then we've got a really decent protection panel through Primus. So we've got 17 providers who are also changing their conditions on a fairly regular basis. And I generally don't think, unless you've got some setup like us where we're shortcutting the CPD and the learning. So we've got a WhatsApp group where you've got me on there, you've got a couple of other guys who are absolute protection specialists. The mortgage guys know how to give advice. So what's happening is they're signing the mortgage, doing the protection stuff, and then running it by the protection advisors and just say, has anything changed I should be aware of?
Yeah.
So they're basically leveraging the experience we've got internally. Unless you've got protection specialists, then I think it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
Particularly, let's face it, is the mortgage market until recently, weeks or so, has been absolutely off the chart.
Yeah.
I don't know why people don't specialize, because I also think it's two different mindsets. So for me, and I'll probably get shot by a few people on here, is mortgages is very data driven. Yeah. It's very criteria matching, and not saying that's an easy job because they're changing so often, but it is working out which criteria works best, who's going to be the smoothest for the client, putting it all together and packaging it. Whereas with protection, you don't have a box to fit them into. So you've got the budget. The budget is fluid once you explain it. You've got the whole range of solutions, and then you've got all the whole optimization that's dependent upon what they want and what you want. And it's much more of a problem-solving, dynamic, fluid approach. And I actually find that it's almost like the left side and the right side of the brain. Very few people can do a great job in both.
Yeah,
is my personal opinion, which is why a lot of our mortgage guys internally either get to the point where they refer the protection, or where they say, actually, I'm going to step back a little bit on mortgages and do more mortgage and protection, which makes them more money. But yeah, the interesting thing is if you look at our average premiums on protection as a result, is right now this month we're averaging roughly £65 per person. So in a client, a couple, you're talking £130 in protection premiums because we do the full shebang.
Yeah.
Whereas if you look at the mortgage guys, they're typically right now they're referring a lot of them through to the protection guys because they make more money by referring it.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the when I interviewed Rob Jupp, who obviously runs Brightstar, he was saying about the big game changer for them was when he basically brought it in as silos: residential team, buy-to-let team, adverse team, commercial team. And I'm a big believer in the same kind of model is having the expert, to that warrant of a degree. I remember Richard Coulson saying it actually was you can either be a GP or you can be a consultant, and the consultant always gets paid more, but you have hand and heart consultants. You don't have the two that do the both.
I think that's where we get away with our mortgage guys doing protection as well, because they're all siloed as such. So if you look at Stephen specializes predominantly in either buy-to-lets or directors, self-employed type people. Whereas if you look at Lynn, she's first-time buyers. Yeah. If you look at Joanne, she's specializing in not necessarily first-time buyers, but people who are first-time movers. Which is a whole range. And then you've got Sean, who basically does a wide range of people. But if it's more specialist, he refers it out. And then as people come on, we're getting specialized more. So we've got one guy coming in who's going to specialize in over 50s. We've got one guy coming in who's going to specialize on NHS people. And because they're just specializing with that specific niche, when it comes to the protection, you also rule out half of the protection providers. Because you're just looking at specifically going, so like we've got, for example, we've got Rachel, who only specializes in offshore people. And unless you work offshore, she won't deal with you. She'll pass you to someone else in the firm, which is the way it should be. Yeah. But now she's got specialist knowledge with about 5 providers who will cover offshore divers and offshore rig workers. So it narrows her focus that she can do everything, but just with those specific parameters.
Yeah, and I think that's a big mindset thing. That's a massive growth mindset. Let's say that, and there is a big thing. I see it all the time in the mortgage pro community. There's that fear of I've got to hold on to this client, rather than actually if I spend 5 hours trying to research something that I don't know very well, trying to get better at bridging or, medical life insurance, whatever it might well be, rather than actually staying in my lane, knowing what I'm really good at, in the 5 hours that it takes me to research that, I could have done 5 times the amount of work in my niche or my specialism or my expertise. How do you manage that culture in the team to get them all to refer to each other and actually be open to it? I presume they all get kickback from each other, do they?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So the corporate will design that they get roughly 50-50 commission if it's split. So that if you know you're going to sit there and not do it, then basically you get almost half as much for passing it on as you would for doing it yourself.
Yeah.
So it's about focusing on, but it's also the fact that if you pass it on, you know you're going to get something coming back the other way.
Yeah.
The other side of it is that when we generate leads internally for them, we're generating them specifically for individuals. So, for example, you might see a picture. There's an ad going out right now for Stephen, which basically positions him as the expert in Falkirk and Sterling for directors if they want a mortgage. And it's got his mug on the picture. It's got his phone number on the picture. When it goes to the calendar, it goes straight through to his calendar. So they're booking straight in. So we're deliberately siloing and funneling the activities in. And that's one of the things we do with the providers. We say, who's your ideal client? And then we generate a campaign specifically for that provider. And while we still look at the whole range, but the campaign's pretty much geared that they're going to, for example, Scottish Widows, they're going to AIG, they're going to One Life and to One Family. And it's campaigned around who they're particularly good at.
Yeah.
That means you've got specific advisors who are experts in that particular provider who can look at the whole panel and say, well, for this client, are they actually the best option? But you know that 80% of them are coming in because you've matched the criteria what their underwriting really wants.
Yeah.
The pricing model really wants.
Yeah, it's a great way to do the targeted. You know, niche advertising now is so key. You know, what is it? The Social Dilemma that's on Netflix and the Great Hack that's on Netflix now. They've got so much data on absolutely everything. You can go down to the most finite of targeting in there when you understand how to really pull out the people that you want to.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in running that kind of campaign, because I know one of the questions that will come up is there's always this debate. I'm not going to go down the fee route, but there's always the debate. There's always the debate around commission splits and, you know, everyone always chasing the percentage that they get and that sort of stuff. And, you know, I'm quite transparent. When somebody joins me, I don't charge any upfronts. 70-30 on their own leads, 50-50 on an active generated lead. You know, but there's no monthly charges or anything. And then there's a tier structure where they've got the opportunity to earn more as they write more. You know, how do you kind of juggle that? If you're advertising the broker, building their brand, putting them out there as, you know, the expert in that particular area, and then that lead is booking into their diary, have you just got one commission split across everything?
What we have is we have a whole, because we bring them in completely from non-experienced all the way through to someone who's got years and years and years experience. Like we just brought Lynn on, who's got 10 years experience in the mortgage market. She's worked for banks, she's worked for brokers, she's worked for one of the largest independents. The way it works is it's based upon, it starts off with, they come on as a trainee, then they move all the way up. And then as they progress, they get a bigger split of the commission. So at the beginning, they're getting a smaller split because we have to literally pay someone to sit with them for every appointment. And then as they do more and as they write more, they get more business. But unlike a lot of firms who do it on a monthly basis, we've done it on a lifetime basis. And that's because I'm a big believer that you should build your lifestyle around, you should build your income around your lifestyle, not your lifestyle around your income. Yeah. I don't want to penalize someone because they're part-time when they're still generating. If they've been with us for 5 years and they've made us £1 million, then do I care if it took them 5 years or if it took them a year? Not particularly. If they're covering the costs, I don't care. So we've got a model that reflects that. And then the other thing is that we've got is they also get overrides for building a team underneath them. So we can bring on advisors, recruit them, put them underneath them so they're mentoring them, they manage them, they oversee them, and they get a check match bonus that basically means they're heavily incentivized to help that person succeed as well. And then they get that for the lifetime they're both working with us. So it's not just a temporary thing. So yeah, it reduces as that person becomes more independent. But it still gets to the point where if you're running a team of 8 or 9 people, you can still make 100 grand with us just by running the team. Plus then sales on top. And then on the other side of that, we've also got the option that because of our success within Primus, we're now able to sponsor firms in and then work under us as their own brand. They get the exact same deal as they would do with Primus. Because we've got much higher production, we get a higher deal and we get the difference between the two. So we're able to say to people when they come in, come and join us. You can work with us. Or if you're experienced, we can actually set you up underneath us as your own brand, your own firm, and you gain from our mentorship for the next 5 years. We'll help you with your lead gen. We'll help you with your leadership development. We'll help you with your management structures and build it out. Or you can come and be part of On Point and stay part of On Point and build a really successful business in On Point. Yeah. Or you can just come in and just be an absolute legend when it comes to sales. So I don't care what people want to achieve. There's something they can do within us. And we offer to put them through their mortgage exams or equity release exams. all in a way that gives them the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
So it works really well.
Yeah, I think it is about giving that variety, isn't it? There seems to be this incessant need for people to have their own brand or their own brand or name above the door. But if you look at the American industry, for example, there's actually almost like networks call it, and the people call let's all say they're all Primus advisors for argument's sake, or they're all On Point advisors or active advisors. It doesn't really make any difference, but they actually just put themselves out there.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It becomes, once the paperwork is done and all that, then all of a sudden active, On Point, Primus, then all kick into action because people buy people.
Exactly.
So do you guys do much self-generation, or are you literally just supplying them with majority of their leads?
So when they start off, we supply them the majority, but then what we do is we teach them how to use the whole shebang. Because we do wills and trusts on the back. We put every policy in trust. We speak to the trustees. We speak to the executors. We offer them a free will if need be, to keep them in the circle. And the whole idea is we'll help them and give them leads, and then they should become self-sufficient. So what we always say is that a lead generated from our lead is their own lead.
Yeah.
Commission rates, which means they get a good boost. And the whole idea is after 90 days, they shouldn't really need our leads.
Yeah.
But we've got the capacity to keep scaling and keep growing the leads so that if we need them, we need them. I mean, I did a test the other day where I just scaled it up for 1 day. And in 1 day, we had to shut it down after a couple of hours because we're on track for 500 appointments that day. We don't have capacity for.
No. But the opportunity to grow to that size is there for you. So on that then, so if you've got the opportunity to go and generate 500 leads, what's the vision for you then?
Well, our goal is to, I need to be careful in case Richard Coulson has this and holds us to it.
Don't worry, I'll send it to him, don't worry.
We're targeting at least 25 by the end of this year, 50 by Christmas, and 75 to 100 by the end of next year.
Yeah, advisors.
Yeah.
What percentage of those do you think will be non-industry, and what percentage do you think will be industry?
About 85-15. So about 85% of them will be non-industry.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it'll be awesome.
Yeah. So you're just taking, and are you looking for a certain type of person to come in on that side?
Not really. So we ideally want them to have had interactions with clients before. And sales experience, so much the better. But I would say we don't recruit a CV. What we do is we recruit based on energy, integrity, and ethics. Is yourself when you speak to someone, you get a feel for them in the first few minutes. And if they've got the right energy, then great, we'll have a chat with them. If they haven't, then we'll get rid of them really, really quickly. When you start asking about where they're working and why they've left or what they're looking to do, what their big vision is, you soon get an idea whether they're just doping around and just looking for the next big thing, or if they're actually serious and want to get involved. The big thing is it's about giving them choice in careers. So what we find is a lot of the people we speak to are people who want flexible working and can't get it.
Yeah.
And they really buy into the way that, as we are a big family, we're not very PC when everyone's behind closed doors. We take the mick out of each other. We have a bit of fun. We pull practical jokes and that sort of stuff. But also my vision is that, and it's a really good one, I think, is that as a business owner, I can hit my goals by just helping enough people hit their goals. I think Zig Ziglar said it best when he said that sort of thing. And the thing I've always said to people is if my goal is to fill a swimming pool as fast as possible, I can do that by having 6 to 10 people with a fire hose and really work them hard. Or I can just get 100,000 people to throw a cup of water in.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter to me what your goal is. Your goal could be as simple as I want to make $5,000 a month, or it could be I want to earn $5,000 a month in 10 hours a week. So what we do on the support side is with our guys, we've got a course called Habit Builders when they first come in that's designed to get them the habits to succeed, get them to £1,000 a month in income in their first 30 days. And then after that, we've stole the name. It's called Couch to 5K. It's a great name. So I thought, well, why not steal it? So internally, we've got a Couch to 5K program, which is designed to get people to £5,000 a month in the first 90 days. For some people, it'll be 180. We're completely upfront with that, but it's as hard as they work. And then after that, we've got programs designed to get them to 10K, 15K, 25K, $500,000 a year, and then £1 million lifetime earnings. And what we say to them is at that point, it's not about hitting those financial targets. That's just the name. So for example, it's the 10K runners. But the goal is to either get to £10,000 a month in income or earn £5,000 a month in half the time. Because it's the same techniques. If you want to earn more money, you want more time with your family, we can facilitate that. Likewise, when we go to 15K, it's about taking you to £15,000 a month, or again, shaving another third off the time it takes you to earn that. And then it's all about leveraging yourself, building your own teams inside, getting your own support mechanisms, and leveraging what we've got as a brand with what you bring as an individual.
Yeah, nice. And do you supply them with admin support as well?
We do it as a phased thing. So the big thing we found is that this was one of the learning points, is if you give someone brand new admin support, they don't understand the nuances of the advice they're giving, but they don't appreciate it. So what we found is we were giving people admin from day one, and they weren't working any harder. They were just working less, which meant all we did was reduce our profit margin. So what we now do is say when people come in, they've got to do their own admin until they hit a certain level, which for protection is 501 in a month in protection premiums, which is a real big Primis standard that everyone should hit. And I believe everyone should hit that in 90 days. And then from there, we'll start offering support to do demands and needs. Now, we obviously do a full compliance check on every case, and there's people there to help them if they get stuck. But then we'll take the demands and needs off them. They hit another level. We take all their underwriting and pre-underwriting and post-underwriting off them. And then they hit the top level, where at that point, they basically have their own PA. And their PA basically does all of their admin, will do whatever they need them to do, appointments set for them, chase appointments, chase paperwork. And then when they don't have work to do, they help the other guys as needed.
Yep.
It means there's a phase thing that really rewards people, not only in higher commissions, but also in extra support.
Yeah.
And they become a team leader. They're running a team. They've got a PA to help them manage their appointments, their diaries and everything, do all their admin and compliance for them. Allows them to focus on what they need to do.
Yeah. Which is a great model to have, to keep that people. It's almost that halfway house. It's, where I've been looking at what active can do differently. There's that element of the same as what you're kind of saying. I look at it as, you can be employed where you're controlled, and you have to do everything the way in which you're told, in the way in which you should do it. You can go and be an AR. Obviously, you can go and be DA, and then you're responsible for everything. Or you can be an AR, and you can leverage out some compliance, and you can get some additional support, some coaching and leadership and training, etc., depending on the network you're with. But then there's that. But you're responsible for all of the business.
Exactly.
Or there's the halfway house in between, which is kind of where you and I are at, which is we'll give you all the tools, we'll give you all the support, we'll give you all the guidance, give you all the coaching, training, mentoring, etc. You just have to focus on making money and helping clients and doing the best for your clients.
Exactly.
And it's just understanding. I think one of the things that a lot of people come into this industry, particularly with, is just is unrealistic expectations, but equally not knowing enough about the industry and sort of making silly decisions in terms of what they do or don't do.
Yeah, well, we speak to quite a few people who are thinking about going off on their own, and we have a chat with them because obviously, as I said, we've got the mechanism where we can support them through Primis, where we can help them. But actually, what we find is when we start talking to them about all the stuff you need to consider as a principal and as a business owner and all the extra responsibility you take, they just go, I thought I'd just make more money. And you're like, well, no. And when they actually weigh it up, I mean, we've got a few now. We've got followed up with them this afternoon where there was a couple, they were going to come on board as their own AR and their own point through Primis. And now actually they've texted me this morning going, we thought about it and no, we just want to join you. So they're coming on board as advisors and just focusing on serving the client.
Yeah.
That's the best thing, I think, that when people try and do too much, they don't do a great job of anything. And my whole thing is that you should always provide a level of service that's so good that your clients insist that you see their friends and family, not that you have to ask.
Yeah.
And we don't always get it right, but when we don't get it right, we fix it. And that's the big thing.
Yeah. And how important do you think systems have been to enable you to scale to where you are now, plus obviously going into next year of 100 advisors?
I think some systems are nice to have and some are absolutely bloody essential.
Yeah.
So having the training, having the support systems, that bit's really key. Having the onboarding systems is absolutely key. Having the CRM is key from a compliance point of view. So we've got Toolbox with Primis that is a really good system, but it's only good from the point of sale. It doesn't help with like tracking leads and tracking lead sources and all that sort of stuff. So we use Pipedrive for that. And that's really quite cool for tracking everything and tying it all together. We've got probably 50% of the systems I want in place. So for example, we've got the training academy that we go through where we're going to put some of that online so people can go through it at their own pace. So it's more on demand. So we again accommodate people who are working full time. So what we find is a few people find it a bit intense. So what we're now doing is doing a thing where we say, well, actually you can come on board and do it live, or you can come on board and commit to doing it at a slower pace. So instead of having a 6-week intensive, it'll be a 12-week slower pace, or even we've had one guy ask if you can do it over 6 months and then get registered at that point, which is totally fine. So it's just about tailoring it to people, and having those systems is probably the biggest thing. And by the end of Christmas, we want to have an automated recruitment process where basically we're just giving a call to welcome them on board, and everything's done automatically through AI, basically.
Yeah. And it's with the training, how have you found doing that training through? I assume you haven't been doing it face to face.
We've done it through Zoom.
Yeah.
And that's probably the big thing for us is everyone's going, oh my God, how did your business cope with everything? How did you find the transition to working from home? I'm like, well, since we set up, all of our staff that was employed have always had the option to work from home. Most of them work from home half the week anyway. And our advisors have always been remote. So there's a few advisors who were doing quite a bit of face-to-face who found the isolation a bit challenging. And I think they're still finding it a bit challenging. But for most of our guys, I mean, I saw, 2 clients face-to-face last year?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely no bloody difference. The only problem is the internet at home's half the speed of the office.
Yeah. So you haven't found it an issue training your newbies onto the team then through Zoom or anything else? Have you done it? How have you done it? Sort of a couple of hours a day, or?
We've been doing 2 hours a day for 3 days, 2 hours a day, 5 days a week for 3 weeks. And then we dropped down to an hour a day, 3 days a week for 3 weeks. Yeah. And then it's basically a daily call. Then after that, once they're appointed, for 20 minutes every day for the first month and a half. And then it goes to 2 weekly calls and a daily personal call.
Yeah. So are they making any money during that initial training period if they're not appointed?
Yes and no, it depends on the individual. So we've got options where we can get them set up with one of the other businesses, On Point Wills and Trusts, where they can make wills and then doing the wills and then referring the protection, and they get paid as if they sold it.
Got it.
So we give them ways to make money if they want it. We've also got other people who are working full-time jobs or juggling kids who just want it for once that finishes. So we've got options where people can make money from day one, or they can go out and do On Point Business Finance, where we do commercial business lending and stuff, which isn't regulated. So they can do that where we just give them a specific area like invoice financing and factoring, or they go out and do unsecured lending for them. And it's a good way of starting to build a pipeline.
Yeah. So at least they can make money straight off. I was going to say, because it's hard in this day and age. Well, I suppose if they were furloughed, then it wasn't too bad. But going forward, people want to earn money as soon as they kind of start a new job. And if are you building out a self-employed model?
Yeah, it's all self-employed.
All self-employed advisors.
So we have found that if we took on employed advisors, then with HMRC, they're not really keen on you going self-employed to employed. Mm-hmm. So they're okay with you going self-employed to employed. They're not okay with you going employed to self-employed, doing the same role with the same employer. Yeah. The employed guys either didn't work very hard or got jealous of how much money and how much freedom the self-employed guys were making after a few months. Yeah. So we just decided we weren't doing self-employed anymore. So I think we've got one employed advisor at this point. And that's more a legacy thing because she's been so loyal to us. It's more as she wouldn't suit self-employed. Yeah. She'd be a great advisor for us. So we said, well, we'll make an exemption for you. Everyone else is it's self-employed only. And what we actually find is that weeds out the people who aren't serious about it, to be honest. Because when they look at the model is that for what they'd make 35, 50,000 employed, they're making 100 to 150,000 self-employed. Yeah. And we openly tell them up front, the best thing about this is you're self-employed, so you'll get paid what you're worth. The worst thing about it is you're self-employed, so you get paid what you're worth.
Yeah, exactly. The more effort you put in, the more money you get back out.
Exactly. So it gives people the opportunity for the first time in their life to actually get paid what they're worth. Unless it's what they think they're worth and they know they're worth less than what they've been getting paid. Yeah.
Yeah, great model without a shadow of a doubt. Do you think you're going to come up against any problems in, does clawback not worry you?
No, not with the model we've got in place. So what we do is we encourage our guys to have a split model. So they get part up front for the sale and then they get part as a customer retention on the drip. So it means that they've got a model where they can make £5,000-10,000 a month up front without taking ridiculous risks on clawback, which works really well for them. And it works well for us because it de-risks the model. And then the nice thing with Primuses is that if you go 100% on the drip with a policy, you get a 25% uplift. Yeah. So the whole goal that we teach them is choose what level you need. So let's say you need £3,000 a month income. Then get paid up front as we get paid. And so you've got 3 months reserve in the bank because we only have good months and you have bad months. And then as soon as you hit £3,000 this month, take the rest of the month on the drip. And you might get to say where you put 80 quid a month this month on the drip. So next month, you've got 80 quid coming in. So as soon as you get to 2,920, You know your 80's topping up to £3,000. Take the rest on the drip, and you might put £100 a month on. So the next month you've now got £180. So when you get to £2,820 a month, then put everything on the drip, and over the course of 12, 24 months, you do 100% on the drip.
Yeah.
The other thing is also with premises, they can do a split model as well with Toolbox. So you get paid a percentage on the drip and a percentage up front.
Yeah.
So if you do that, you wanted 80% of your policies up front and 20% on the drip, they can just apportion every policy and do every policy is 80-20.
Right.
Specific policies, so you can be dynamic with what you do.
Yeah. Yeah, which is good because it's, having ran a protection business for almost 7 years and poor quality internet leads, I was right at the worst time to be buying them. 20% clawback coming through on a £750,000 a year business was not fun.
Nope.
Without a doubt. But I think that's, when you take control of your own lead generation, that's really when it really matters. And I think what do you think? I talk a lot to the industry around doing your own lead generation, building a personal brand, doing content marketing, all those kind of aspects. Do you think being in Primus and the businesses that you've seen and the other directors that you've met and stuff, do you think the most successful ones are the ones who generally have a leader of the business who is pretty clued up on marketing, or at least takes it seriously and has someone on the team who is in charge of it?
Good question. I'm actually mixed on that. So if you look at the younger businesses, then absolutely.
Yeah.
So if you're ones that are growing, if you look at the older businesses, there's quite a few older businesses where they've been in the business for 20, 30 years, where a lot of young people are getting attracted by their gravitas and their reputation in the local area, where they're just leveraging existing relationships. But I think as soon as they retire, which a lot of them are due to do in 4, 5, 6 years, the business itself will struggle because they've lost that relationship that person has with everyone.
Yeah.
So going forward, people have to have it.
Yeah.
I think you'll also notice as well is if you look at the people who are able to grow and get people coming to them, more and more people are going online to Google. So the benefit you've got right now is if you are in the older generation and you are at the tail end of your career, is you've still got a lot of people in their 50s who are going to their traditional mortgage advisor to say, Jimmy needs his first home, can you help him? But once you retire, they're not going to turn around to your underling and go, oh, I dealt with Bob. He's obviously going, could you deal with Jimmy? Because they'll go, well, and Jimmy's going, well, you don't even know this person. I'll just go online and look it up myself.
Yeah.
And there's a really good book by Marcus Sheridan called You Ask, They Answer.
Yeah.
You Answer. And that is just a phenomenally good book for teaching people about how to generate content, how to put it all together and do it. But it is a commitment. I mean, we're scaling up ours massively. Right now, we're a bit constrained because of the way that it's growing so fast in terms of my availability. But Steve is taking over all the upside. We've got a couple of people coming in to take over the other side. So I'll literally, by Christmas, just be lead gen content and training and sales management.
Yeah.
And everything else will be managed elsewhere.
Yeah. Which is how it has to be. It's exactly the same. We've now got 7, soon to be 10 advisors. And I had to put an ops manager in place who deals with the day-to-day just because it's weirdly time consuming being on social media, setting up the funnels, checking the ads, liaising with the ads guy, speaking to the email guy, all of those things across the course of the week. And then, these little things as well, they just all add up to actually quite a lot of time across the course of a week.
Yeah, what we found for myself is because of all the experience I've got with sales and marketing prior is I'm actually the best person to do the emails, do all the copywriting and stuff because I've got trained in it. I spent thousands learning how to do it.
Yeah.
Our best online campaign was back with HBSA where we did 1.4 million on online sales letter without ever speaking to them.
Yeah.
It took a couple of months to tune it in and optimize it, but we've got that, and not a lot of people actually have that copywriting skill set anymore.
Yeah.
See, like when Gary Halbert died, so did the industry.
Yeah. Well, I'm a video guy, so I have an expert content writer who does all of my stuff from off of the back of my emails, and I give him the initial framework, and then he makes it sexy and turns it into the nice sales letter and all that sort of stuff.
I think that's the big thing. People need to realize you don't need to be an expert, you just need to employ them. But when you employ them, make sure you screen them.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely make sure you do. It's funny enough, actually, I talk about this all the time, but from a recruitment perspective, I just posted in a local Facebook group, I need someone to manage my email marketing. And John effectively approached me, and it turns out we were in one of the same business Facebook groups back in 2016. He'd bought my book, he'd done all this, that, and the other, and it was just like, perfect. Fate has spoken in terms of actually knowing what we're about and what we do. So it's like, And generally the good thing you can find is if you get somebody who is a keen copywriter, like writing's definitely not one of my skills, it never has been, but they're almost able to write in your voice.
Yep.
As well, which can just make it really, really easy as from, finding.
So it's funny is that I've always said, write as if you're speaking to someone and don't worry about the grammar, because people have the internal conversation, it converts higher. And you do get the grammar Nazis go, you spelt this wrong, you sold this wrong. And I was like, I said it's the best selling piece of work. It's not the best written piece of work.
I was invited to an action coach thing the other day. And it was like everybody comment in, and I can't remember what it was. It was like one of these things. I was invited to it, and they asked a question, and I just put can't and don't, but I didn't put the 2 apostrophes in just because I was typing quick. Someone actually went to the aggravation of sending me a personal thing with them spelt correctly. It's just like put the actual apostrophe. I just was like, oh my God, mate, you really need to get a life. I didn't reply. I just left it at that.
We had one on an ad where it was on the 4th paragraph, we'd missed off an apostrophe, and we'd stupidly, I'd done it in the middle of the night, done your instead of yours, so Y-O-U-R.
Yeah.
Like, fantastic. It was generating leads at 35p a lead, and she's like, well, I think you need to correct this. I'm like, if we stop this ad, it will never perform this well again. And that means people are not going to get the offer we're giving them. So thank you for your time, but no.
Yeah, it ain't happening.
So like, I grew up in Russia where you say you welcome. You don't say you're welcome, you say you welcome. And she's like, well, can you please let's correct the comments where you keep saying you welcome. It's you're welcome in capitals. I was like, not where I grew up, it isn't. I like winding up some of them. It's fun.
Oh, that's what it's all about, isn't it? At the end of the day, you got to get your kicks from somewhere. Yeah. So it'll be wrong to have you on the podcast being the protection guru and genius that you kind of are. And obviously that's your main core focus. Having seen the groups and everything else, what's kind of for someone who's either new at protection or not doing enough at protection, or maybe a little insight into the training that you do with your advisors, what's some of the core things that you chuck at people to get them kick-started?
Great thing. So the first thing is that I would say learn how to actually piece a solution together. So if you look across the industries, only 6% of people have IP, only 12% of people have family income benefit. And for me, it's completely the wrong way around. So actually sit down, go through like the risk reality calculator that LV or Royal London Exeter have. There's some really, really good stuff there. And you'll find that actually what most brokers do is completely wrong for the client. So to give you an idea of one that we just rewrote recently, if it's someone on this call's policy that we rewrote, I'd like to say, but we're not, because it was done bad. And what happened is they sold this guy decreasing life and kick 4 years ago. And to give you an idea is that with his budget, what we did is we basically gave him a decreasing life cover, 2 lives and kicks on an index basis, not a decreasing basis, 2 lots of IP and 2 lots of family income benefit. And it took his premium, I think it was from £64 a month to £66 a month, just because it was done properly. But when you look at CI Expert, is when you look at the score that it gave that policy, is simply changing it from the current provider to, I think it was Scottish Widows we went to. It took the current policy from a score of 2,700 to 3,100. So the current policy we're changing it was slightly better. But because we took it from a decreasing policy over the mortgage term that ended when he was 57 and ran it all the way through to retirement at 68 and indexed it instead of decreased it, it took the score of the policy from 2,700 to 10,900. Now, when you look at that score, it says about, are you going to claim more? But also when you claim, how much is that claim worth? Mm-hmm. The likelihood of claiming on it. So it was massively bigger. But then when you look at LV's risk reality calculator in terms of the risk of them claiming on the policy, is as it was set up with the life and critical illness, the clients had a 22% chance of claiming on one or the other. With the portfolio we gave them, where it basically had income protection, kick, life, the whole thing, they had an 84% chance of claiming on that portfolio before they retire. So now you're protecting them against way more, but when they claim, they're actually getting much more cover. But also is what we were able to do is instead of them needing to get a critical illness to get a payout, after 1 month's absence from work, they were getting paid 65% of their salary. So I would say the big thing is learn how to put together a proper protection portfolio, learn the provider knowledge, because, and I mean no disrespect to some of the questions that get asked in the groups, you're just like, this is so basic. How are you even selling protection?
Yeah.
And if you can't do that, find someone you really trust and refer it through to them on a protection and a split. So, for example, we've got a couple of mortgage brokers who refer it through to us because when they were doing it themselves, they were getting £20, £30 average premiums. They were selling about 1 in 4 of their clients. They refer it through to us. We get about £70 to £80 a month on average for them instead. So we're selling a much better protection portfolio product for the client. It's a better outcome for the client. We're selling a higher premium, but also we're selling 1 in 2, 1 in 1. So actually, in terms of what they're getting back on their kickback is actually more than they were making doing it themselves. So they're not wasting the time. The client's getting a better outcome. We're getting a better outcome, and everyone's making more money. So I would say either decide to sit down and focus on it, or find someone who does that and partner with them. I mean, we're always happy to partner with people. I'll get that in there. But the other thing I would say as well is that choose what you want to focus on. So if you're looking at like networks or DAs, or even if you DA, which compliance network you go through, some of those networks are incredibly good for mortgages and incredibly weak on protection. Some are balanced across both. I'm going to plug Primacy because they are very good on both of them. And then you've got others which are very heavy on protection and not very good on mortgages on the support they give. And find the one that matches you the best, and then partner with them, and then specialize on what you specialize in. The other thing I would say to everyone is learn how to do income protection. It's the biggest bloody thing your clients need. So if you look at ours, is that literally 89% of our clients have income protection. And the only reason we don't get the other 11% is usually because either they can't get covered, they're late in their 50s, it doesn't make any sense for them for what the period they're going to be covered compared to the cost, or they've got a health condition and we can't get them covered for their health condition. In which case, an ASU policy is usually what gets sold, or an AS policy at the moment, given that all the unemployment insurance is gone.
Yeah.
But if you look at it, income protection is the biggest thing. Your clients are 6 to 7 times more likely to need income protection than they are to die.
Yeah.
The problem is that when you're dead, yes, you're gone, and the income's gone, and you can replace the income. When you're alive, yes, you're still alive, but now you're draining money out of the family, and you need to replace that. Otherwise, you're actually increasing the burden on the family at the time. And for me, as protection advisors, we have a responsibility, a duty of care to make sure that when bad things happen, money should not be one of them. They should have the protection in place that no matter what happens, they can just sit there and go, everything's taken care of. I don't need to rush back to work. I need to focus on me, focus on my family, and just get it done properly.
Definitely. And do you think there's a right deferred period on income protection? Because I know that's one of the things that a lot of people moan about is, do I do 2 year? Do I do full term? Do I put a 4 week, an 8 week, a 13 week, a 26 week?
Budget wise, it's always going to come down to budget.
Yeah.
So for me, you should always do full term if you can. Depending on how long you have to defer it, the difference may sometimes make sense. But as 2 years is an absolute minimum. So I would say to people is full term means if you're unable to ever return to work, you don't have to worry. You can sit back, go on a Marbella, go wherever you want in the world once COVID's run its course, and sit on a beach and get paid and not worry about it. Or if you're bored, you can go work at Tesco's or somewhere else, or do another job that you're not qualified for now that you could go and get qualified for. And if there's a difference in gap, because for example, if you're talking to a GP, then if they go and work in Tesco's, it's a completely different job. It'll keep their brain ticking over, but it's not what they were used to doing. And there's a massive drop in income. IP will pay the difference. So it gives them flexibility. 2 years buys you time. It gives you time to not sell the house in desperation. It gives you time to think, are you going back to that or can you retrain? But also is what you'll find with a lot of IP policies, they'll actually pay for things like private physio to get you back to work faster because it's better for you and it's better for the client. It's better for them and it's better for the business as well because it means that you claim less on the IP. In terms of lowest defer period, it is the absolute shortest you can afford because you sometimes get people and they go, well, I won't recommend, the cover only covers for 1 month at work and then they've got 10 grand in savings, so they don't need 1 month, they only need 3 months. Well, if you look at the difference, it's about 20% on a monthly basis, so you're probably going from 40 quid to 30 quid. Well, for a tenner a month, you really want to risk 10 grams worth of savings simply because it took your whole life to save it and because you want to save a tenner a month. Why would you?
Yeah.
I say to people when we're speaking to them, and this is where we probably get more protection premium than a lot of others, is we present the whole package and then we can always ask them, what do you want us to take away? But when you actually explain it to people, and you're like, so with the income protection, you've got, if you take one example with LV for 2 non-smoking healthy 35-year-olds, there's about an 11% chance of death, 22% chance of getting a critical illness, and a 69% chance of claiming on their IP after 2 months. Collectively, it's about 76% chance. Like, if I told you there was a 76% chance the brakes on your car were going to fail, would you put your wife and kids or your husband and kids in the car, barrel down the M1 at 90 mile an hour and press the brakes and hope they work? Or would you take it to the garage and get the damn thing fixed? It's the exact same thing with your protection. Yeah. You know that 3 out of 4 times people are going to claim on it. So look up and down the street, look 2 to the right, 2 to the left, or 1 to the left. Out of the 4 houses, 3 of you are going to claim on this protection portfolio at some point. However, the problem is less than 1 in 12 of you have it.
And the gap just seems to be getting bigger, doesn't it, at the end of the day?
I think it's because as mortgage advisors get busier, they go back to the default of decreasing life and kick. Yeah. Because it's an easy sell, but it's usually, in most cases, absolutely the wrong thing for the client. Yeah. Particularly when you think most people don't pay off the mortgage with the kick payment, they live off it instead.
Yeah, that's
give them something that's fit for purpose.
Yeah, same ethos I have. I'll do a DTA, but I will actually discuss with the client and say, look, you could actually have an LTA for the mortgage, which will provide an additional extra benefit. And then do 2 separate life and critical illnesses to cover the payment towards the mortgage. Because 9 times out of 10, it's like they say the second heart attack actually is the one that kills you. And it's the need to go back to work super quick that actually ends up making them have the second heart attack. Yeah. So actually, critical illness isn't necessarily there to fully repay the mortgage. It's there to buy you choices.
Exactly.
And as you say, it's all dependent on budget, isn't it, at the end of the day?
But also, if you think about it, if you're spending £100 a month on decreasing life and critical illness, how annoyed are you going to be in 25 years' time? You have a month before your thing, and instead of getting £100, 200, you're getting 50 quid.
Exactly. Yeah, no, I don't agree with decreasing life and kick at all. It's definitely one we don't do.
Especially when you look at, for the same price as a decreasing life and kick, you can do a decreasing life, 2 indexed term life and kick for 2 times the salary. You can do £500 per child family income benefit for both parents, and you can do 2-year IP for both parents at the same cost, and it's usually plus or minus 5% on the cost. It's almost identical.
Yeah.
So as you can tell, I'm pretty passionate about it.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely so. Well, hopefully that's given people a lot of insight into protection. You're reasonable for growth, the opportunity that obviously you're taking advantage of in a downturn you're looking to create, which is great. It's going to be intriguing to see how you grow over the course, and maybe next year we'll get you back at the same point to see where you're at then.
Yep. Try and get them all in the background as well.
And do you think on that note, the size that you're going to go to, do you think you'll always stay with Primus, or do you think you may consider DA?
Not in the memory of man.
Yeah.
Just from the whole compliance point of view, from the support point of view, it just allows us to focus on things. So we get to focus on what we focus on, they focus on what they're great on. And at the end of the day, when you look at how Primus stepped up for advisors in ways that I can't always share because it's a public thing, with the deals they did with lenders and stuff and providers to support advisors with no clawback and stuff, was absolutely out of this world. I've never met a network that stepped up. But also what they did as well is, if you look, and it's funny, I'm not going to name the network. I've got an email through from one network that was trying to poach us, going, we've just released this to our advisors about how to survive a COVID pandemic. And I'm like, by this time, Primus has already run 300 webinars helping people get through the pandemic. To give Richard Coulson and his team the juices, I think the pandemic we hit 1 day after lockdown before the first of the webinars were coming out about how to survive, how to grow, how to thrive. And if you look at Primus, I mean, they actually grew. Most networks fell by 30-40%, and Primus grew 6%.
Yeah.
And they only grew 6% because they helped their advisors grow 6%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I would never, ever, ever leave unless the whole management team and everyone else left. And the culture completely changed. I mean, you can never say never, but right now in its current stance, nothing would get me to leave.
Yeah. Nice. So, this is the Financial Pro podcast, and it's always a good way to, prior to ending and getting your contact details, what does Pro mean to you?
For me?
Yeah.
Oh, good one. So Pro for me means that you can put your hand on your heart that you have absolutely done the absolute best by the client. You've specialized, You've made sure that you know exactly what you're doing, and you can look around and say, there's not one single person out there who could have done a better job by my client. And if you can't say that, then partner with someone else who can, and do the bit that you can say that to, because everyone is a specialist in certain areas. Yeah. So there's a really good quote that it's to do with education that says, if you judge everyone by their ability to climb a tree, the fastest swimmer in the world, the fastest swimming fish, will look like a doofus. Instead, look at everyone's unique special ability and allow them to thrive according to that.
Yeah,
and I think that is so true in the current market. It's getting more and more complex. People have to specialize.
Yeah,
and there's no space for the GP anymore.
No, I'm totally with you on that one, without a shadow of a doubt. Either be a consultant or end up losing out to somebody else who is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. At the end of the day, I have a frustration towards the fact that the UK seem to be so toffee-nosed towards making money and wealth and aspirations and big goals. It's one of the things that I do love about the Americans.
Yep.
You know, and I don't get the whole brash thing of chucking it all in your face and all that sort of thing. But generally, if someone's got a Lamborghini or a big house or a couple of Bentleys or built a huge firm of 1,500 people, whatever it might well be, they've had to work bloody hard to get it. They've got to have gone through a shitload of mistakes to get to that.
In the States, I think it was with Dan Kennedy. I might be giving him false credit here. And he turned around and he said, people need to get it out of their mind. Money is simply a currency and an energy flow. And the more money you've made, as long as you've done it legally, the more people you've helped.
Yeah.
So if you know that you have the ability to help many people, earning lots of money is an affront and selfish, because you could have helped more people and you chose not to.
Yeah.
So,
totally agree with you on that one. So as a final thought then, for anyone who wants to connect with you, find out more from you, Martin, where is the best place for them to go and do that?
You can look me up on LinkedIn, Facebook. I'm the only Martin Lightbowne in the world, I'm glad to say. Or drop me an email, martin@onpointfinancial.co.uk.
Perfect, mate. So yeah, Martin is in the Mortgage Pro group, and I think the Protection Pro group as well. Anyway, I'm sure he doesn't want to get hounded by too many DMs. With
up late at night, just don't expect a response during the day.
Yeah, exactly. Which insurer do I use for this one? No, use the group for that. Talk to Martin about things that actually are valuable and what we've spoken about today. So yeah, hopefully that gives you some good insights into Martin, On Point Financial. And mate, I really appreciate you sparing some time to educate the industry.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having us on, Gary.
Cheers, bud. You take it easy.
Cheers. Thanks, bud.